Hi, class. Today we're going to talk a little bit about the accents. And for that, I'm going to use this other easel because it's stronger and it's in the living room right underneath my light. I like to paint, so I need, natural light. You can see some of my paintings here. So anyway, this easel is much better, but I cannot take it to that room because it's too big. So I'm gonna do it here. So let's talk about the accents. The first thing, which is kind of difficult for an English speaker, is the division of syllables. Spanish says every single word. Remember I told you every single letter is said except for two letters, the letter U and the letter H. And the letter U, it's only when it's in between the G, E or the Q, U, E. Other words, if you have the diéresis on top, you have to say it. That's how we go bilingue. We pronounce the U because it has the two dots. Okay, so what it makes it a little bit different and a little bit difficult is that English speakers can say the most strange words in English and you guys are able to say it, which in Spanish would be impossible to do. For example, a long time ago, I lived in a place called Scranton, yes? So you know that is written like this. So look at how bizarre is this beginning right here, SCR. That it's such a weird thing that the only way that we can muster to say it, it would be for us to put an invisible E right there. And we will have to say it like this, S, and then gran ton. Why do we do that? Because Spanish has a very easy way to say any word. You either have combination of consonant and vowel or a sandwich, consonant, vowels, consonant. Now, that doesn't mean that here you can only have one vowel. You could have two vowels as long as that everything is smooth. The moment that you say something and it just doesn't seem right or smooth or you get stuck, then you did the division wrong. And that is the first problem that English speakers have, because in English we can say things like this, yes? And sometimes even this sound sometimes gets swollen up. You can say scranton, yeah? So the becomes the tongue, which in Spanish you couldn't. You have to say escranton. Make sense? So it's very, very clear. The sound has to be extremely clear. You have to say every single word. So then, Spanish has consonant vowel or consonant vowel consonant. Remember, it could be two vowels, but it has to be smooth. So if we had a word like, let's say this. So then we have to say, okay, do we do a sandwich here? Because it's a consonant, vowel, consonant. Okay, let's try it. So then we will have here re, but that looks like a funny division because this is one letter, consider one letter. So then it must be this way, then te, then re, then mo, and to. So this is what makes it difficult to figure out. So if you know how to divide the word into syllables, you have right there a great thing to start with. But you can't, and you will see that, especially when you start reading. And I noticed it last week that we read a little, do you remember that little reading? Okay, some of you got stuck in some of the words because you were trying to apply the English way of how we do things, where you can have 3 or 4 consonants together. That would be impossible in Spanish. We don't do that. It's either a pair, consonant, vowel, or a sandwich, consonant, vowel, consonant. But remember, it can have another vowel or it can have another consonant, but it has to be smooth. And the transition between the previous syllable and the next syllable also has to be smooth. If in any case that combination of the sandwich causes a problem, then we have to redo it. Does that make sense? So that is the first problem that you encounter. The second problem you encounter is where to put the tonic accent in the syllable. So all words, all languages have a tonic accent. So for example, if you were teaching English to a foreign student and you needed to teach them how to say this word, yes, we have to teach them, first of all, how it is divided into syllables, yes? So this is the last one, the penultimate, antepenultima, tres antepenultima, and the second one. Okay, so we don't start from left, we start from the right. But then, where is our tonic accent? The tonic accent is the effort that we do with our voice. So we don't say university, we don't say university, but rather here. This is where our tonic accent is. University. So this is where the tonic accent is. And that, guys, you get to know the tonic accent with tons and tons of knowledge of Spanish. You have to have read so much, you have to have written so much. That requires that you are reading literature, newspapers, things that are not simply like my dog has a bone. No, you require like much more vocabulary, like very, very rich vocabulary. And you start getting that when you're in your second year of Spanish, not second semester, but second year. The first year of Spanish, the 2 semesters, is basically to give you the basis of your building, and then in that basis is your concrete, your the 2x4s that are setting up the floor, and then little by little you start putting the walls, you start putting the windows, you put the second floor, then you put the third floor. But if you don't know that first year, those first 2 semesters, which are heavily grammar based, and we have to, because once you know the grammar won't change. Once you know the grammar, the only thing you need to do is get more vocabulary and practice more. But the first year is so important. So then, those 2 things affect how we put accents. So as you can see, this is one of the hardest things to know, and you can only get to do these things by having a lot of knowledge in Spanish. Nonetheless, let's go with the division of the word so that you can see how this happens. So there's 4 categories of words in Spanish, okay? So let me, did I not bring an eraser? Great. I'm gonna have to do it with my hand. Okay, so there are 4 categories of Spanish words, and that affects to all the words in Spanish. And those categories are, and I'm gonna write them here for you. Agudas, breves o llanas, esdrújulas, and sobresdrújulas. This is actually one word and with one E, but because I separated them, I'm adding a new E because this word cannot start with an S. It's only one. It's one word, sobresdrújulas. Does that make sense? So we have agudas, breves o llanas, esdrújulas, and sobresdrújulas. Okay, so the first thing to know is that the agudas can have a minimum of 2 syllables. It can have 3 or 4. But a minimum, the basic minimum, 2, okay? So we can have a minimum of 2 syllables, and the tonic accent goes in the last syllable, and it has to end in an N or an S for it to have a written accent. So we have words like canción. So let's look at that word, canción. If we had that word and you needed to know how to separate it, then you would say, okay, let me see consonant and vowel. But then we have this problem right here that we have caused, the N and the C. How do we say that in Spanish? Enc? No. So then we did something wrong up here. So then we know that it cannot be enc. So then it has to be a sandwich. So it has to be can. Does that make sense? So now that is smooth. And now we have to see here the sion. Why is it sion? It's because the accent goes over the O. But let's look at what would happen if I put the accent over the I. If I put the accent over the I, then we're making it into 3 syllables. Canción. Does that make sense? Canción. And we don't want that. Instead, we want this, you see this sandwich right here, which is the consonant, the 2 vowels, and the consonant, but in one effort. So that's why we write the accent in the O. And now it's sion. So you see how that happened. Canción. Okay. So now we have it as agudas, and it has an accent because it ends in an N, and the tonic accent is in the last syllable. Bien? Okay, so now let's look at the next word. Breves o llanas, again, have a minimum of 2 syllables. So it goes at least 2 syllables, but the tonic accent is second to the last, right here. Okay, so it's like antepenultim, yes? So we have the accent, the tonic accent right here, and it cannot end in an N or an S to have a written accent. So then we have words like árbol, árbol. Make sense? And this is the only way that you can separate it, because you have a vowel and a consonant, and then you have consonant, vowel, consonant. So there's a sandwich here and there is a pair here. Bien? Where the tonic accent is second to the last. Okay. Now, if you know that this is the last, this is second to the last, then esdrújulas is third to the last. And esdrújulas has to have a minimum of 3 syllables. So we go 1, 2, 3, a minimum of 3. So for example, words like cámara, cámara. And it has the written word right here, cámara. The tonic accent is third to the last. I don't want you to think that this is first. This is how the position goes. It's from the last to the second to the last, third to the last. So this is cámara. So with esdrújulas, it doesn't matter what letter it ends to. As long as it has the tonic accent third to the last, it always has a written accent, no matter what. And now we go to sobresdrújulas. Sobresdrújulas is the hardest type of word to find in Spanish because they're compounded. That means they don't exist naturally. We have to make them up. So I'm going to show you how I make that up, okay? And you have to now bear with me because this is a long explanation. So I'm going to stop it here for the first part.